We built the house out of necessity, and it has freed our lifestyle financially, and then also where we live, being able to be in the rainforest here.
I feel like living in a tiny house has increased our quality of life and has given us a lot of opportunity to live in a way that I don't think we would be able to if we lived in a typical housing situation. We are That Hippie Family. My name is Ashley.
I'm Chad.
And we live in our tiny house on wheels with our 2-year-old son and soon to be our next little baby coming in 4 weeks. So we're gonna have 2 children in this house with us.
The trailer is like 8.5 feet wide and 28 feet long. So square footage is 240-ish square feet.
We're currently parked on Vancouver Island, and we have been living full-time in our tiny house for 3.5 years now, and we don't have any future plans to move. We had saved $30,000 for a down payment for a house, and then when the bank said, no, you can't do that, we just took the $30,000 and started building the tiny house, and I would approximate another $10,000 that we put into it. So in Canadian dollars, it would be about $40,000, not including Chad's man hours.
The labor costs, that is such a big number. So the whole process of building the house was pretty much exactly a full year of my time. When we decided to build the tiny house, and Ashley asked me if I could do it, so I decided to learn how to build all the different aspects of the house and watch YouTube videos and just figure it out step by step. Framing, roofing, siding, plumbing. So I built it probably way stronger than it actually needs to be, but everything is all done to code.
We did have a plumber, a gas fitter, and an electrician come in, check everything before we finished it off.
Yeah. We wanted to build it mostly with like reclaimed stuff, but where we lived, it was really hard to find anything even used. So all the framing and stuff was all new lumber that I purchased. Around the house, we used as much reclaimed stuff as we possibly could. Like almost all of our windows are used, but the foundation being the most important part of the house, it was imperative to get a new trailer. I didn't want to have things rust or break with all the weight and stuff like that. Like I wanted something that was as structurally sound as possible.
At that time, I was working full-time, and Chad, we decided, would take the time off to build the house. But once we got to the end, I did a lot of the painting and the designing. I really wanted the house to feel like you're walking into like this little old house. I wanted it to feel like kind of very retro. We like to call it our retro tiny house. We love the 70s vibe, so we wanted to try to incorporate that as much as possible. So it's an ongoing project. I'm constantly trying to add little retro bits here and there to make it feel more groovy.
Right when you walk into our tiny house, you kind of are immediately in like somewhat of a living space, right? We've got a couch and an open area. It used to be where we had like lots of our shoes, boots, jackets, all of that kind of stuff, but now we're able to kind of move that out of this space and make it more available for Floyd and the new baby to be able to kind of like play on the floor. For dinner time, we fold out a little table and stuff for Floyd to eat at and Ashley to eat at, and I usually sit on the couch. And then you can fold it down and then set up his play mat, and he can play with his cars or his toys or whatever, right?
Our stove is propane, so we actually found this is a secondhand stove we bought from somebody who took it out of their RV, and it works really well.
And then moving down the counter, it's all like reused cabinetry, and actually like the very first thing that we got for our tiny house was the sink that's in there.
We gave the bathroom enough space to have the tub, the toilet, and we have a washer-dryer combo machine. So we do our laundry in there, which is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's still a good unit.
And both of our closets are in there. Which are like on either side of the bathroom, and they're kind of like stand-up size closets. So we've got room to like hang our stuff, have like baskets with miscellaneous stuff, and then both of us have like shelves in the back.
We use the storage under our stairs mostly as pantry space and food storage, and then
broom closet.
That
has like tall things like a vacuum, and
we keep some jackets in there. Right now we're all sleeping up in the sleeping loft. So we do co-sleep, and it's fine, it does work for us. And right now we have no intentions of really changing our sleeping situation because it works really well for us. We don't really have any problems with it, and maybe down the road we'll end up changing that. Our hammock loft, when we built the tiny house, we thought maybe we would make it into a kid's bedroom down the line. We use our hammock loft as what we call like our chill space, our living room. We have a TV up there. We don't have any streaming services or cable. We actually still have VHSs and DVDs, and so we go up there and we watch movies or read books. It's mostly where we just go to kind of like hang out. It's like a little nest almost. All our pillows and blankets are stored up there. So it's almost just a bonus room kind of in the tiny house. One of the reasons we chose to move to Vancouver Island was because we knew that it was not as cold as the rest of Canada, but it's very rainforesty here. It's humid, it's wet, which is why we've actually just built our mudroom, because everything is wet all the time.
Yeah. So having that space to just kind of like get rid of all the wet gear, hang it up to dry out there, and then come inside to a warm, dry place is going to be nice, yeah.
We've changed the tiny house too over time. We used to have a bench seating and a fold-down dining area in here. We've added a change table once we started our family by what used to be our front door. So the nice thing about owning your own home too is that you can always evolve and grow and change in your house and change it so that it works for you as you change.
Our tiny house is parked on private property. We have a landlord. We basically just rent this area. I guess you call it like a pad rental or something like that. We have access to use a garden. It's got raised beds and stuff like that in it. And then we also have access to a 16 by 16 greenhouse that the landlord and I built. Our chickens are kind of mobile. The coop's on a trailer.
We really wanted to get chickens to help us live a more sustainable lifestyle. That's another small goal that we're kind of after here. So our chickens provide us with eggs. And we have a rooster who's pretty cool. I only recently learned that a rooster is really valuable to your flock. He takes care of the ladies, so he has a good job there too. I find living in a tiny house to be extremely affordable. Our monthly bills are just internet, propane, and pad rental.
And our pad rental includes electricity and water.
I do think that it costs less to live in a tiny house than rent. Our rent was double what we pay. We were paying like $14.50 for a studio, nearly basement suite, and that was cheap. We had a deal.
Yeah, well, because we have pets. So you can find stuff that's like semi-affordable if you don't have like pets and a car. A huge advantage to having a tiny house is having your own pets, having your own space, chickens. Lots of tiny houses are commonly parked on property or land. You can park them in tiny home communities, but you own it. It's yours, so you make the rules. You get to decide what's in your tiny house, and that's freedom. Yeah.
It can be challenging to find the perfect park space because we knew we wanted to find somewhere we could stay long term, And so it had to be somewhere we could build onto. We knew we wanted to build a deck and eventually maybe more space onto the house, have a garden, have chickens. So being able to find that was a little bit challenging, but we found it.
So the heating situation in our tiny house is mainly a propane wall-mounted heater. We do supplement that in the bathroom with like a little space heater for when it gets really cold in here. It just helps because it's kind of a separate space. And then in the mudroom that we're building, we're gonna put a small wood-burning stove.
If we could go back, the only thing I would change about this build, I would just put a heated floor in the tiny house.
That'd be a good call. Electricity, we run a line from the landlord's house and it comes directly in. It's a 30 amp shore plug-in. The plumbing situation for gray water is, it goes just into like a big French drain that our landlord had dug for us.
And what's really important when you have that type of drain is we are a completely non-toxic household. We don't use any chemicals for cleaning. We don't have black water. We use a composting toilet. And so we're not putting anything dangerous down our drain.
The water to our tiny house also comes from the main house on the property. He just has it trenched through the ground. Where it comes out of the ground, it comes out of PEX piping. And then we just have like a garden hose fitting onto there that just goes into our house. For water heat, we have an on-demand water heater and it's located on the outside of the house. Being partners in a small space is awesome, but challenging at the same time. You can't really get away from each other, but you always kind of feel bonded or connected, right?
We are just that kind of couple that is pretty inseparable. We do everything together. I mean, we're still normal people. We still argue. We still fight. We disagree on things. But we are really good at working it out pretty swiftly. When we built this tiny house, we knew that we wanted to have a family in here, so we did build the house with that in mind. I find it's actually a lot easier to raise a child in a tiny house. I did some house sitting in a large house for a while and they get lost. You don't know where they are on the other side of the house. I can be anywhere in this house and I know where he is. I can see him.
And I feel like it also promotes outside time. When you're in a big house and there's lots of space, there's no need to really go outside. But in here you get cabin fever after a little bit and it's like, okay, well, go outside, right? And that's also another big reason why tiny house living like fits our lifestyle. We're both like pretty outdoorsy people and like spending time outdoors. The biggest con is that there isn't that much space, right? And I know that's like, you live in a tiny house, but it's the biggest con, but it's also like one of the biggest pros, right? It makes it so that you're more minimalistic. You're not like being consumeristic and buying a bunch of stuff that you don't need. So the biggest pros and the biggest con is the same thing.
We were not minimalists at all, and I've even had some people comment that we have a lot of stuff in our tiny house, but we have downsized. We have gotten rid of a lot of stuff since we have lived tiny.
When we moved to Vancouver Island, I was changing jobs, obviously. So I tried to find something that was really close to where we were living. And I started working at like a dog walking company, which turned out to be a really good job. And I'm quite good at it. I have a lot of fun and I get to be outside all day.
Living in a tiny house has been able to make it so that Chad can go to work and I get to stay at home with our toddler, and I'll continue to stay at home with our new baby. And I do the stay-at-home mom thing. I do have a YouTube channel where I share our lifestyle living in a tiny house with children in hopes to inspire people that this is totally possible, totally doable, and this lifestyle is something that has a lot of benefits I hope to share with people. By living in the tiny house, we are able to live the lifestyle that is dear to our hearts by being more sustainable and having a smaller footprint.
Subscribe to Exploring Alternatives and please share this video if you liked it. You can also follow Ashley and Chad on their YouTube channel at That Hippie Family. Thanks for watching.